young pastor named Israel established a small church that quickly became the talk of the village. At just 26 years old, Pastor Israel was known for his charisma, eloquence, and fiery sermons that captivated his congregation. People admired him for his dedication to his faith, and the young women of the community couldn't help but be drawn to his charm. His church was a modest building with wooden benches and a simple altar. Yet, it was always filled with people eager to hear his message of hope and redemption. He preached the passion that resonated with the villagers, and they looked up to him as a spiritual leader. Pastor Israel is truly a man of God, said Mama Nkechi, a prominent member of his congregation, after one particularly moving session. His words touched the soul. The women of the village were particularly taken with the young pastor. Many of them hoped to catch his eye and win his heart, dreaming of becoming the wife of such a reverend figure. Did you see how he smiled at me at the service? Chioma, a young woman, said to her friends after church. I think he might be interested in me. You're dreaming, Chioma, her friend Amara replied with a playful laugh. He smiles at everyone. Despite the competition among the young women, Pastor Israel remained focused on his ministry. He often spoke about his commitment to serving God and helping the community, which only added to his ministry. One day, during a church event, he met a young woman named Ada. She was quiet and reserved, but had a radiant smile that caught his attention. Unlike the other women who vied for his affection, Ada was content to sit at the back and listen intently to his sermons. After the service, Pastor Israel approached Ada with a warm smile. Sister Ada, I noticed you in the congregation today. Your presence is a blessing. Ada blushed, taken aback by his words. Thank you, Pastor. I find your preaching very inspiring. Over the next few weeks, Pastor Israel and Ada began to spend more time together. He often sought her out after church, engaging in deep conversations about faith and life. Ada was drawn to his intelligence and spirituality, and it wasn't long before she developed feelings for him. One afternoon, as they walked through the village, Pastor Israel turned to Ada with a serious expression. Ada, I believe that God has spoken to me. He has revealed that we are meant to be together as husband and wife. Really? Ada's heart skipped a bit. Are you sure, Pastor? This is such a big step, she said. I am very certain, he replied confidently. God has a plan for us, and I believe we are destined to build a life together. In her excitement, Ada agreed to marry Pastor Israel. The village was abuzz with the news of their engagement, and preparations for the wedding began immediately. The ceremony was a grand affair, with the whole community in attendance to celebrate the union of their beloved pastor and his new bride. Little did Ada know that her marriage to Pastor Israel would reveal a side of him she had never expected. The wedding day was a joyous occasion, filled with laughter, music, and dancing. Ada felt like the luckiest woman in the world as she stood beside Pastor Israel, exchanging vows under the watchful eyes of their friends and family. In the days following the wedding, Ada settled into her new role as the pastor's wife. She was determined to support her husband and contribute to the church in any way she could. However, it wasn't long before she began to notice subtle changes in Pastor Israel's behavior. At home, he was a different man than the one that she knew before the congregation each Sunday. He was more demanding and critical, often chastising Ada for not meeting his expectations. The kind and gentle demeanor he displayed in public seemed to vanish behind closed doors. Ada, you need to make the house spotless before my meeting with the elders tomorrow, he instructed one evening. I expect nothing less than perfection. Yes, Pastor, Ada replied, trying to hide her growing unease. Pastor Israel's behavior continued to change, and Ada found herself walking on eggshells around him. He was quick to anger and often blamed her for minor inconveniences. Despite her efforts to please him, nothing seemed to satisfy his demands. One night, as Ada lay in bed, she overheard Pastor Israel speaking to someone in a hushed voice. Her curiosity piqued and she quietly approached the door and listened. You must do as I say, Pastor Israel commanded. The spirits demand it, and I am merely their vessel. Ada's heart raced as she realized he was speaking to an unseen entity. Her mind raced with questions, but she knew better than to confront him directly. She needed to go and gather more evidence before she could truly understand what was happening. As the days passed, Ada observed Pastor Israel more closely, taking note of his secretive behavior and late-night meetings. She began to suspect that there was more to his spirituality than met the eye. One afternoon, while cleaning the house, Ada stumbled upon a hidden compartment in Pastor Israel's study. Inside, she found a small shrine adorned with symbols she couldn't recognize. Her heart pounded in her chest as she realized that her husband was serving a small juju in secret. Ada felt a wave of fear and betrayal wash over her. The man she had married was not the devout Christian that he had claimed to be, much less a pastor. He was hiding a dark secret that threatened to destroy everything she held dear. Ada's discovery of the shrine shook her to the core. She couldn't comprehend how the man she had fallen in love with, the man she had pledged to spend her life with, could be involved in something so sinister. As she sat alone in their small room, the weight of her realization pressed heavily on her shoulders. Determined to find answers, she decided to seek the guidance of someone she could trust. She confided in her closest friend, Nneka, who had always been a source of support and wisdom. Nneka, I need to tell you something very serious, Ada began one day. She took a deep breath and recounted the events of the past few weeks, from Pastor Israel's change in behavior to her discovery of the shrine. Nneka listened to her intently, her eyes widening in disbelief as the story unfolded. I can't believe this, Ada, Nneka said finally. I knew something was off about him, but I never imagined this. I don't know what to do, Nneka, Ada admitted. If I confront him, he might deny everything, and the village will likely side with him. But I can't keep living like this. Nneka nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. You need to gather evidence, Ada. If you want to expose the truth, you must be able to prove it to the village. And remember, you're not alone. I'll help you in any way I can. But please, be very careful. With Nneka's support, Ada felt a renewed sense of determination. She knew the road ahead would be very difficult, but she was resolved to uncover the truth and protect herself from the man she had once loved. As the days turned into weeks, Ada began documenting Pastor Israel's suspicious activities, carefully noting the times he disappeared into his study and the mysterious visitors who came to their home late at night. Ada's investigation reached a critical point as she amassed enough evidence to confront Pastor Israel. The burden of carrying the secret weighed heavily on her, and she knew she could no longer continue living in fear and deceit. One evening, as the sun set over the village, Ada gathered her courage and prepared to face her husband. She took a deep breath stealing herself from the confrontation that lay ahead. "Israel, we need to talk," she said, her voice steady and firm. "What is it?" Pastor Israel said, his expression unreadable. "I know about the shrine," she continued, her heart pounding in her chest. "I've seen it, and I've been documenting everything. You're not the man you claim to be." The flicker of surprise crossed Pastor Israel's face, but it quickly disappeared, replaced by a cold, calculating expression. He stood up slowly, towering over Ada as he spoke. "And what do you plan to do with this information, Ada?" he said, his voice low and menacing. "Do you think anyone in this village will believe you? I am their pastor, for God's sake, their spiritual leader. They will never take a word over mine." Ada felt a surge of fear, but she refused to back down. "I don't need them to believe me, Israel. I have evidence, photographs, notes and everything. I will expose you for who you truly are." Pastor Israel's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, Ada thought he might lash out at her. But then, to her surprise, he began to laugh. A dark, sinister laugh that sent chills down her spine. "So you think you can ruin me, Ada? You have no idea who you're dealing with. I am protected by forces you cannot comprehend. And if you go through with this, it won't be just your reputation that will be destroyed. It will be your entire life." Ada's heart raced, and she stood her ground. "I'm not afraid of you, Israel. You may think you have power, but I have the truth on my side, and I will do whatever it takes to make sure you're held accountable for your actions." Pastor Israel's laughter died down, and he regarded her with a mix of anger and admiration. You've grown bold, oh Ada. I didn't expect this from you of all people. But if you're so determined to expose me, then go ahead. But know this, you will regret it." With that, he turned and stormed out of the house, leaving Ada standing there, trembling with a mix of fear and determination. She knew the path she had chosen was dangerous, but she was resolute in her decision. After the confrontation with Pastor Israel, Ada knew she had to act quickly, and so she contacted Nneka and shared everything that had happened. Nneka, ever supportive, encouraged her to go to the village elders with the evidence she had gathered. "The elders have always respected you, Ada," Nneka said. "If you show them what you found, they will listen. They may not want to believe you at first, but show them the evidence, and the truth cannot even be ignored." Ada nodded, and she decided to go. The next day, Ada and Nneka made their way to the home of the village chief, where the elders often gathered. Ada carried with her a small bag containing the photographs and notes she had collected. As they approached the chief's compound, they were greeted by the sight of the village elders sitting under a large tree, discussing matters of importance. "Ada, Nneka, what brings you here today?" the chief asked, his voice warm but curious. Ada took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Chief, I have something very important to share with you and other elders. It concerns Pastor Israel, my husband." The mention of Pastor Israel's name immediately caught the attention of the elders. They exchanged glances, and the chief motioned for Ada to continue. "Pastor Israel is not who he claims to be," she began, her voice steady but firm. "I discovered that he is involved in practices that go against what he preaches. He has been serving a small juju in secret, and I have evidence to prove it." She quickly reached into her bag and pulled out the photographs of the shrine, along with the notes she had taken. "These are some of the photographs I took of the shrine in his study," Ada explained. "I've documented his suspicious activities over the past few weeks." The chief looked at the photographs carefully. The other elders leaned in to get a closer look, and soon the murmurs began. "This is troubling indeed," the chief finally said, looking up at Ada. "But we must be careful before making any accusations. Pastor Israel is a respected figure in our community." "I understand, Chief," Ada replied. "That man is my husband. I can't stay silent for any longer. I've stayed with him at home, and I know what I'm talking about." The chief nodded, his expression softening. "You've done the right thing by bringing this to us, Ada. We will investigate further and determine the best course of action. In the meantime, I advise you to be very careful and vigilant." A few days later, the village elders summoned Pastor Israel for a meeting. "Welcome, Pastor Israel," the chief greeted him. "We have called you here to discuss some concerns that have been brought to our attention." Pastor Israel's eyes narrowed slightly, but he maintained his calm demeanor. "What concerns, Chief? I am always open to discussing matters of the community." "These were provided to us by your wife, Ada," he said, handing him the photographs and notes. "They show evidence of a shrine in your home and other suspicious activities. We would like to hear your explanations." "Well, this is nothing but a misunderstanding," he began, his voice very smooth and confident. "The shrine is a cultural artifact passed down through my family. It holds no power over me, and I have never used it for any kind of nefarious purposes." The elders listened, but there was skepticism in their eyes. The chief leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "Pastor Israel, these images tell a very different story. We have always respected you, you know that, but this evidence cannot be ignored." Pastor Israel's calm demeanor began to crack. "You're being deceived, Chief. Ada is trying to ruin me because she cannot accept my authority as a husband. She's trying to turn you against me." At that moment, Ada stepped out from behind the elders, her expression resolute. "I am not trying to ruin you, Israel. I only want the truth to be known. The man I married is not the man you pretend to be in front of the village." The tension in the air was palpable as the chief and the elders exchanged glances. Finally, the chief spoke. "Pastor Israel, it's very obvious that you're guilty. Your actions have brought shame upon yourself and the community. We can no longer allow you to lead our people in this way. You are hereby relieved of your duties as a pastor for us, and you must leave the village at once." As he left the compound, Ada watched him go, a mixture of relief and sadness in her eyes. She had exposed the truth, but it had come at a great cost. The man she once loved was now a stranger, and their life together was in ruins.